11:30, and it looks like we've got a good group. So I will turn it over to Porter for his housekeeping message, and then we'll call the meeting to order. So it's all yours, Porter.
Thank you, Jerry. Yeah, just a quick housekeeping on this virtual meeting, reminding people that we are broadcasting this on YouTube and channel 25 cable, as well as recording the meeting. And for this group, since we don't have a ginormous group, everybody can leave their video on, but I am going to ask everybody to turn their mute on also when they're not speaking, just to avoid background noises and that type of thing. And last but not least is to do your best to remember to state your name in case anybody is watching or listening remotely in some fashion. That would be great, and I might nudge you to try to remember to do that. So that's all I have, and I will turn it back to Jerry.
Okay, great. So we'll do a roll call, and if you could, when you hear your name, if you could come off of mute and say here, then we can record the attendees for tonight. So I'll start with Christina.
Christina Walker here.
Joshua. Sorry.
This is Joshua. I'm sneezing, but I'm here.
Marlo.
Marlo here.
Denise.
Denise here.
Mary. I don't see Mary.
Mary had rehearsals, so which is good news.
It is good news. Go Mary. James.
Here.
Sarah. Don't see Sarah. Jordan.
Here.
Dina.
Dina Amont here.
And Daniel.
Daniel, I'm here.
All right, I'm Jerry Johnson, and I'm here. So our first order of business is to approve the minutes from our April meeting. Does anyone have any comments or changes recommended for the minutes? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve. None?
This is Joshua. I will move to approve the minutes.
Thanks, Joshua.
I second.
Thanks, Denise. All in favor, raise your hand.
And let the record show that it is unanimous.
Minutes are approved. Porter, I'll turn it back to you to make an introduction.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And yes, I just wanted to
Take a moment. I am happy to introduce Melody Henning, who is our new administrative specialist in the Communications and Creative Resources Office, and somebody you may be communicating with, so I thought I'd put a face behind a name, and just wanted to take a moment and let you all say hi to her and quickly introduce yourselves to her as well. But I'll let Melody introduce herself and give you a little background too. Uh-oh. Says you're unmuted, but we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
There you go.
Oh, thank goodness. Sorry, thanks for your patience. I am new to the city and really excited to be here working with Porter. He's been so kind to bring me into all these meetings and allow me to introduce myself. So yeah, it's a real honor to be introducing myself to this group tonight. My name is Melody Henning, and I've been in Lawrence for 17 years, primarily at KU for 13, and at KU as an undergraduate for the 4 years before that. So I worked with the Center for Online and Distance Learning. I worked with the Office of Multicultural Affairs, and I worked with the Academic Achievement and Access Center. So I really feel strongly and passionately about representing students with special needs who are trying to navigate the system. And so I bring that passion to the communications department. And I'm just really looking forward to the work that we're doing together, and just kind of getting in tune with what you guys are doing with the mural. It's very exciting. I remember my first experience with public art in Lawrence was when I lived on Illinois, and seeing the mural on the cork and barrel about to sow seeds, we must open our fists, you know. So that just had a powerful impact on me as an 18-year-old. And so, yeah, I'm just thrilled to be here and to meet you all.
Great, thanks. Can you guys just go around quickly and introduce
Yourselves. And actually, would it be easier, Jerry, if you could
call them out according to who you see on your screen?
I will do that. So I'll start with myself. I'm Jerry Johnson. I'm the chair for for the LCAC, a longtime Lawrence resident. I'm a musician, so that's my tie to the arts here. And I've also done a whole bunch of stuff in the music business, I guess you would say, here in Lawrence over the years. So, Dina, we'll call on you next.
Hi, I'm Dina Amont, and I'm an art teacher at Lawrence High School. I've lived in Lawrence for about 26 years now. I just had my 26-year anniversary of moving to Lawrence. And I've been an art teacher at Lawrence High. I teach 3D art. I've been there for about 18 years now. So nice to meet you.
Oh, I have a son at Lawrence High. He's a freshman, so.
Oh, cool.
Daniel, you're next on my screen.
Hey there, my name is Daniel B. Smith. I'm the Director of Marketing and Resource Development for the United Way of Douglas County. I have a design degree from KU, and I've been involved in some arts-based nonprofits over the years, and I'm relatively new to the LCAC.
Denise, you're next. Sorry.
Hi, I'm Denise. This is my second year on the LCAC. I recently retired from KU, spending 31 years teaching. This is my 32nd year in Lawrence, Kansas, and I'm from the East Coast. But I don't plan on going back because I love it here.
It's a good place to stay.
James.
Hi, nice to meet you. I'm from Michigan originally, and I'm a DMA cello performance student at the University of Kansas.
Wow.
I'm relatively new to the LCAC as well. So.
All right, Joshua.
Hi, I'm Joshua Fallleaf. I'm an enrolled citizen of the Delaware Tribe of Indians out of Bartlesville, Oklahoma, which is where I'm from. I've been on the LCAC for about 30 plus years, or it feels like that. I am and have served for a long while as the interim dean of the College of Humanities and Arts at Haskell Indian Nations University. We did not have any arts classes when I first started here, and I'm glad to say we've got some ceramics, some painting, some drawing going, and I look forward to bringing on more while I'm interim, and then I can just cut out. That's my hope. I'll, give birth to a thing and then get out of here. And I should say that I do not speak in any way, shape, or form on behalf of Haskell Indian Nations University, pending the many issues that you may have encountered in the newspapers and other media. But our faculty, staff, and students, I know, are excited to be a part, excited to represent, and enjoy the Lawrence community, especially as it embraces arts of all kinds, especially traditional Native art work. So nice to meet you all. Welcome, Melody. Welcome, Dr. Muhammad. Good to see the rest of you as well.
Thanks, Joshua. Jordan.
Hard to follow that up. Hi, I'm Jordan Martinez. I grew up in Lawrence, Kansas, and I just came back after finishing a bachelor's degree in music education with a choral concentration and vocal performance. And I think I'm coming up on finishing my first year on the LCAC.
That's right.
Nice to meet you all.
All right, Christina.
Hi, I'm Christina Walker, and I've been on the Arts Commission for, I think, 6 years. This might be my last year. I'm also a very long-term Lawrence resident. I moved here in 1980, so it's been, 40-some years. And I work up at the Spencer Museum of Art at the university. I'm the Director of Education and Interpretation.
All right, and Marlo?
Hi, I'm Marlo Angell. I'm a filmmaker, independent filmmaker, and I direct the Free State Festival, which is an annual film, music, and arts festival. Coming up this summer will be our outdoor drive-in movie experience, so super excited about that. I work at the Lawrence Arts Center in marketing, and I got my degree in filmmaking from the University of Southern California. Been here in Lawrence since about 2003, and this is my 3rd year on the commission. And thank you for being here, both of you.
All right. So, Melody, welcome. Nice to meet you. And Porter, I guess I'll turn it back over to you to introduce Dr. Muhammad.
I'm happy to do that. And I also want to release Melody. She doesn't have to stay for the whole meeting. I appreciate her jumping in and just saying hi to everybody, and I'm sure you will see her again in the future. Bye. And now it is my great pleasure to introduce Dr. Farris Muhammad, who, bless his heart, started in October, literally in the midst of the pandemic. Happily, unlike some people, I have actually seen him in real life a handful of times since October, so I had a chance to get to know him a tiny bit. And I know that you guys are eager to have him here, and great opportunity to introduce him. I don't want to take up too much of his time, but I'm sure he'd be happy to answer questions and have a little dialogue with everybody. And happily, he just met you all, which actually was very nice because we don't usually do that. So it's kind of nice to be reminded who everybody is and what they do in life outside of virtual meetings. But anyway, with that, I will turn it over to Farris and ask him to fill in any blanks I left.
Thank you, Porter. Appreciate the introduction. Farris Muhammad, Director of Equity and Inclusion. I'm happy to be before you all tonight. I know it's been a challenge related to scheduling conflicts over the last couple months, but definitely appreciate the invitation. Definitely great to see Joshua again. I believe Joshua was on the interview panel when I first was interviewing. I don't know how long ago at this point, as well as James to be from Michigan. So I'm born and raised in the city of Detroit. Spent most of my life here in the Midwest. I've lived in different states, including Georgia and North Carolina and Iowa and Illinois. And I'm happy to be here now in Lawrence, Kansas, and learn about some of the work that you all are doing related to art. And just to share a quick story, I guess, is I remember about 10 to 12 years ago in the city of Detroit, I stopped at a art museum. I think it was the Charles H. Wright Museum. And I remember stopping by this one piece by, it was a description of some work related to W.E.B. Du Bois. And at this time, I didn't care a whole lot about art. But with the description, when it explained that W.E.B. Du Bois was encouraging more Black people to get involved in the arts, to be able to better paint and sort of the counter narratives to all the negative sort of caricatures and the way Black people were often depicted in print media and television, et cetera, et cetera. And it was in that moment that I really had this sort of epiphany and realization of the importance of art, because it tells a story sometimes that may not be verbal, but you see these things and it sort of resonate with you in your subconscious and through subliminal messaging and billboards and these types of things. So I really started to really recognize the importance of a diverse group of people being involved in arts to kind of help share various types of stories that help contribute to a sense of belonging. And so for you all to contribute to that work here in Lawrence to help to enhance that sense of belonging here and being very intentional about that, I greatly appreciate you all work in that regard, serving on the LCAC. And so I look forward to learning more from you all and being a resource for you all as much as I can be. So thanks for having me, and I'm happy to meet with you all.
Great, thank you. Nice to meet you, and thanks for making time to introduce yourself and meet all of us. We appreciate it.
Jerry, can I say just a couple words?
Absolutely, Joshua.
Yeah, I did have the privilege of being in the interview process, which I credit the city for including those of various areas, including Haskell Indian Nations University, in that process. And it was an honor to meet and hear so many stories that Dr. Muhammad shared. And I know I've been a big advocate and pushed very, very much to have Dr. Muhammad in our meetings to understand what we do, because I didn't mention this in my introduction, but my art cred is an MFA in creative writing with emphasis in poetry. And what I at least recognize in art is its willingness and ability oftentimes to push the status quo back in a way to create a new status quo, to create something different, to create something that's more accepting of differences of opinion, difference of point of view, and really embrace all in a meaningful way, which I think folds into a diversity and equity conversation. So, I think Dr. Muhammad's work and the city's emphasis on that is not exactly exclusive from what we do here in the Lawrence Cultural Arts Committee and in the arts community at large. I know Marlo does a great job, and I just speak of this as a part of a more recent conversation, does a great job in representing various perspectives in film with the Free State Festival. And I had an opportunity to see some wonderful stories being told that really share a perspective and a diversity that we all ought to be embracing. And Lawrence is the place that can and continues to do that. So I just wanted to note that correlation between the diversity and equity and what the arts have been doing for a long time and continues to do. So I think our efforts go hand in hand in a lot of ways. So great to see you again, Dr. Muhammad. Thank you for joining us, and good luck to you on all your work. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Great, thanks, Joshua. All right, so should we jump in? Let's jump into our old business. I'll remind everyone that we had a sort of a middle meeting, I guess. A couple of weeks ago, we weren't able to get the mural proposal on the previous month's meeting, so we had an interim meeting, and the discussion there largely was around just community involvement and making sure that the group had sort of socialized the idea of the mural with the neighborhood association and neighboring businesses and so forth. So I don't know. I mean, I guess I'll turn it over to either Ruthie or Chris to give us an update. I saw via email, but I want to give you guys an opportunity to give us an update on what's happened since our last meeting, and then I think the goal would be, provided there's no sticking points or anything. The goal would be for us to go ahead and do our role in with respect to your proposal. So I'll turn it over to either Chris or Ruthie, whoever you guys would like.
Mr. Chair, if I may interrupt just briefly, I told
Farris that he did not have to stay, so I don't want to hold him hostage. I'm sure he'd be more than happy to, but I don't think it's necessary. So I just wanted to say thank you for joining us tonight. It is great to connect with you tonight, and I'm sure there may be other interactions, Farris. So thanks for joining us briefly, and I'll see you somewhere virtually soon, I'm sure.
Yeah, great to meet you, and thanks for taking time to join us.
Okay, now to a mural.
Okay, so I think we just kind of went step by step through your suggestions from our last meeting. I did take a copy of the proposal with the artwork to our surrounding neighboring businesses. They were all very excited about it. I didn't receive any follow-up negative email at all. I just got one email from the Big Mill. They're interested in doing their own mural, so you may be hearing from them soon. We also contacted the email for the Old West Lawrence Neighborhood Association. I never heard any negative comments back from them. We also posted on the Nextdoor app for that neighborhood. Our post received a like, but no one else asked for any more information or anything. So nothing negative. We did go through your sample contract and just modified it slightly, but there were some very good points in there that we didn't have in the original agreement. So we have signed that. Ruthie signed it. Mike has agreed to it, but he's not currently in town to sign. So I'm just supposed to pass along that he is ready to sign it when he gets back into town. So, and I just did add kind of an extra little bit in the proposal about our space and how long we've been there as the neighborhood florist. Does anybody have any other questions?
All right, not hearing any. So there is, just with respect to Mr. Trainer's, you spoke to him. His name is typed in here, but I guess there'll be a real signature or a digital signature.
Yeah, he's just not physically here to give a signature right now, so.
All right. All right, any questions from the commissioners?
May I just make a comment, not a question necessarily? I just want to thank you for your efforts in connecting the mural back to the history of the area and to the community, because I think that's really important, and elevating it to being more than just a lovely decorative piece, which it is, but I think that elevates it to a different level. And I really appreciate your reaching out to all of those people and doing that.
All right, any other questions or comments?
This is Joshua. I just had a quick comment on the modifications to the contract. I hope that some of our conversation about the preservation of the artist's work and how that will be maintained, and pending any transfer of ownership of the property might impact some of that was addressed, because it seemed like there was a good response to those comments before. And otherwise, I just want to say I appreciate your going through those steps and checking with all those stakeholders to do that. It sounds like a diligent effort and well done. So I appreciate that effort.
Yeah, Ruth, Chris Bandel, Ruthie even commented that some of those things that were in that contract she wasn't currently using in her mural business, and she's going to kind of work that into her normal contract. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for reaching out to the community and for embracing our suggestions. And the reason that model contract is in there is because it comes from previous experiences and so forth, and as well as the checklist that you guys have done a good job of following through with. If there was some serious heartburn over this mural, we would have heard. People have had an opportunity now twice through public meetings to show up and whether if they had a negative reaction or positive reaction, and we haven't seen any of that. So I don't have any further questions for you all about the piece. And I guess, Porter, as a point of order, do we make a motion to recommend approval, right? And then that goes to the commission for their consideration.
It will go on to a consent agenda. Whoops. Porter Arneal, it will go on to a consent agenda hopefully next week. I'll do my best to get it on next week's consent agenda. If I can't get it on there, unfortunately, it will be delayed because they won't meet again until the first week of June. So I'll keep you posted, Chris. And like I said, I'll do my best to get it on there, and that way you should be good to go. But yeah, it requires approval here first.
So I would entertain a motion from someone. Anyone?
I move to recommend to the city commission.
I'll second.
All right, by show of hands, all in favor?
Let the record show it is unanimous.
That everybody is in favor. I believe that's right. Tell me if I'm wrong.
No, you were right. Denise, her hand went up early. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you both. Now exciting. Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
It'll be fun to watch it come to life. So.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. Next item for our agenda is the update on the outdoor sculpture exhibition and community arts grants, which I suspect is tied to, budget realities. Maybe you could give us an update on what you know about that.
Yes. One, I want to thank Christina. She did a great job updating the information for the outdoor downtown sculpture exhibition. I know that I said I was going to get these things rolling, but I have been speaking with our finance office, and they actually made a presentation at the city commission meeting last night about the first quarter report on funding. And of course, TGT is sadly down 70% in the first quarter. And so, as you all know, the TGT fund funds a lot more than just the outdoor downtown sculpture exhibition and other things. So with that, I just wanted to be very cautious, especially in this time, not to put out a program where we were, implying the promise of money if it's possible that that money may not be able to be available. The good news is that I've also talked to Explore Lawrence, and they're also keeping an eye on the TGT fund, and they're more optimistic at this point that things are indeed bouncing back. Also, last night, the commission indicated interest in funding these things that are in the TGT fund, and that the American Recovery, help me out, ARPA funds can be applied to some of these things. So again, it sounds hopeful, I just didn't want to rush into anything given the circumstances, and that's why we haven't moved forward on that. The other thing is, and this jumps to number 3, as many of you know, and I worked with Marlo and Christina and Spencer museum staff on the Kansas Creative Arts Industries Reimagined Spaces grant. And we will hear, I think we'll know Friday whether or not we're going to receive that grant, which is tied into our outdoor downtown sculpture exhibition. The good news with the outdoor downtown sculpture exhibition is that we can scale it. We're not, obligated necessarily to engage multiple artists. We can reduce the number of artists, but also then tie it hopefully to that other grant, which allows us to expand that program going forward too. So hopefully that makes sense to everybody. It's just, trying to balance. We're still coming out of pandemic. But I have all the best intentions of moving forward on all these programs. And now with Melody's help, it can really start getting on that and making that happen.
Great, thank you. So just as a review, we want to continue on with these things, but we want to be mindful of not making commitments that we can't, in the end, financially support. So on ODSE, we can go ahead and then understand that we can fund as funds are available, whether that comes through the federal aid, I guess, that we may get, or through the Kansas Creative Arts program, because we've put this out there as part of that application, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Expanding that. And the other thing is that the longer we
delay, the more likely those TGAT funds are to bounce back a little bit anyway. It's hard to say exactly how much, but so those things are working in our favor.
Yeah, so that's an interesting point. I'll pull the thread a little bit, Porter, just to see if there's anything else there. So Explore Lawrence, is it safe to assume that Explore Lawrence sees sort of the trend there a little bit before things show up in the city coffers, I guess, if you will, through taxation? Or
they're getting reports related to hotel activity directly, whereas the finance office is waiting for information coming from the state related to the TGT program, to those tax funds. So yeah, I would dare say that Explore Lawrence is better at reading those tea leaves currently than the city is as far as seeing it quarterly.
So they would be, like a leading indicator or whatever, rather than just sort of wishful thinking or whatever. Okay, well, that's good. That's good to hear. It'll be interesting to see if that flows through then as we progress through the year. And then, as you said, we'll find out about the Reimagined Spaces thing, you said, as early as Friday, correct?
Yes, I've been invited to listen in on that.
Deliberation, they have a panel meeting at 10 o'clock on Friday, and I think there were 11 other groups that applied for that grant fund. So fingers crossed. I'll let you know as quickly as I can what the outcome is.
Great. And then on the...
Oops, Marlo had a comment.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Marlo.
I had a question, just in light of this information about the ODSE possibly being delayed or not able to be funded in the way that it has been in the past. Has there been any other discussion about our funding coming not from TGT in the future? So for the next budget cycle, has that been brought to the table or discussed at all?
Yes, both your good email and other conversations, I believe.
I heard directly, but I'm pretty sure that that was definitely received and heard, and they're looking at, how that may play out. Also remember that the budget is shifting in the sense that it's really tying back into the strategic plan. So I think we're going to see, other changes as well.
That's reassuring, because that just is an indication. I think that ODSE is so special to Lawrence, and it's something that we look forward to every summer. And if that is reliant just on, I think the Reimagined Spaces grant is excellent and great, will fulfill a different need, then than what we've done before. So the way I always thought of that grant is kind of building on what we've already done and expanding it in a new and interesting way, where it would be sad to me if that's all there is of the ODSE this year. So, but I do understand the TGT funding being so directly impacted, but if this could be a catalyst for us in the future, not being reliant on the TGT, I think that could be a positive outcome, shall we say.
Agreed.
So Marlo,
actually, sorry, go ahead, Jerry. No, you go.
I actually had two questions, but the first one, Marlo, did you, I mean, that was a personal email, right? From you to the city. Did you receive any direct response that you can share with us?
Yeah, I received some positive feedback from Mayor Finkeldye and then Courtney Shipley. And then just some other people just, responded, thank you for, sharing your feedback and perspective. So to me, that was encouraging, just that in light of the fact that strategic plan, and even I just read that Journal World article about the strategic plan being focused on arts and culture is one of the first things they mentioned. So that gave me some hope that perhaps not even getting out of TGT and going to general fund, but I know we proposed a larger budget than we've had in the past. So that gave me perhaps some hope that that could be received positively. So if there's any way that we can be advocates, Porter, if there's like a commission meeting that we might be able to speak at, I would be so happy to do that. And I know other commissioners would be great, and willing as well. So I'd love to have our voices out there when those conversations are had.
And that's definitely, this is Porter O'Neill, that's definitely part of the budget process. And so it will come before the commission, and there'll be opportunities for people to provide feedback. So absolutely.
And will you give us a heads up, like when might be a good time for that? Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, I'll keep tuned into that and let you know. I just wanted to add too that I was working with a couple people here, but what's exciting about this grant opportunity is for years now we've been looking at, and with my experience in public art, it's great that we do sculpture, but honestly, there's so many other forms of artists working in the public realm. And so one of my pets or heartfelt things is how do we help artists expand their own notion of art in the public realm? And right now couldn't be a better time for artists to really bring a whole different perspective. I was actually just watching a wonderful video related to Art 21 about artists doing a wide range of things, including this van that's basically opens up into a theater, and they put it out in all different places in Brooklyn and New York City and just have sort of spontaneous performances or selling food or whatever, whatever sort of fits their need at that moment. So I'm excited by that opportunity, and that's how I wrote the grant application, was the idea that by doing this, one, we fund two different programs, one more traditionally based, but trying to then bring them together so that they can move forward in this new way. So, I'm really hopeful that we get at least partial funding and can move forward in this way.
I have one quick comment. I would like to nominate Marlo for everything. I think she's done a remarkable job taking that initiative and writing to the city commission and following up on the response, and she's done amazing and in keeping tabs really on what's happening and what's going on. And so I appreciate Marlo's work, and I think some of the things that she's doing, again, not to harp too much on it, with the Free State Festival, the mention about public art, some of the podcast conversations regarding and revolving around the films in public space are also ought to be in that same realm, in that same configuration of what we think of as outdoor sculpture or outdoor art, public art, and those sorts of things. So, I give Marlo a lot of kudos, and will continue to, as I will everybody. But appreciate that hard work, Marlo, because I wasn't doing it. So I appreciate it.
Thank you, Joshua. That means a lot.
Jerry, do you need to call a vote on her being nominated for everything?
I mean, it's unanimous, right? We can just, to work on those shoulders. It's going to get heavy, Marlo. You take on everything.
I'll take on the squeaky wheel role. I'm happy to do that.
So the other question that I had, Porter, it dawned on me that during the first, well, I don't know if it was the first, but we had an opportunity to, when there was some state, county, and maybe local funds that came through, because of the pandemic and everything, we had an opportunity to make a statement that said, "Hey, don't forget the arts." And I think there was some success, in the, at least from a community perspective, knowing that this next thing that none of us can remember the exact acronym, ARPA or whatever, is there some action that we can do? Do we need to be more proactive to, so that, that we can make sure that our needs are known and that we would be interested in participating in that to whatever extent we could.
This is Porter Arneal. Actually, you reminded me too.
Mary Doveton, Steve Novak, and Margaret Morris all presented at the last City Commission meeting during a study session. And so they are continuing their campaign and championing of the arts as well. So, which is great, to have that coming to City Commission. So that's being heard repeatedly in addition to the economic strategic plan and other things. So I think things are good. Certainly, to Marlo's point, when I hear an opportunity, I'll pass that on. The budget will be the biggest opportunity for that. The City Commission, bringing this to the City Commission is also a reminder that when these funds do come from the federal government, there are certainly opportunities to help. At the very least, make sure that we can fulfill our budgetary, agreements with these different arts programs this year, and then obviously also moving forward.
This is Joshua, and I just wanted to make a note. I'm on a task force for one of the strategic plan configurations.
Outcomes.
Something revolving around Native businesses and the support for Native businesses. And what I'd like for us to continue to kind of repeat and reiterate to the City Commission and to the public in our conversations is that arts is also business. As we've seen the economic impact reports and some of those structures, that a lot of independent businesses of all sorts stem from independent artists and areas, galleries, workshops, showcases, whatever it might be. There's a lot of areas that ought to be supported, not just arts exclusively as kind of an outlier, but all arts as it impacts business and local business for those starting up their own independent LLCs and nonprofit organizations to support the arts. So I don't know if that could potentially impact some of the funding or some of the resources that are made available to the artists and arts organizations, but it certainly is something that ties in with some of our conversations in the past.
All right, thanks. Phoenix Award Artist Call is our next agenda item under old business.
Yes, Porter Arneal again, and basically this.
There, I wasn't rushing on that. That doesn't need to be pushed forward too quickly. That's $3,000, so I feel pretty confident that we can get that funded, and so that's just a matter of within the next couple of months getting that rolling, so we can get it accomplished within this budgetary year, and so I'm working on that too.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, moving on to committee updates.
I didn't know of any. Nobody had reported to me, so I'm not sure there are any, but thought I'd leave it in there in case somebody needs to.
Report something.
Yeah, I was just going to open it up to anyone who had any updates. I was unable to do the roundtable today. I think there was one today, right, at noon. Anybody sit in on that, or is there anything to note? All right. Hearing nothing on that or any committee updates. Strategic plan.
We did have a committee update for the strategic committee. I think I emailed it to you, Porter, but it was like this morning, so it may have gotten lost in the shuffle. But we had a good virtual meeting on just right after our mural meeting, and discussed some of the things that we talked about last time, and how to do some action-oriented steps to bring some of those great cultural plan goals to some action items. The first thing that we talked about was an Instagram account. So we discussed it in our last committee update, but the idea being using an Instagram account to promote the arts and to promote the local, which was one of the goals that was stated in the strategic plan. And this would be an informal, not a city issued Instagram account, but it was something for volunteer commission members to contribute to. So I started an Instagram account with Culture Chat LCAC. And Porter, I sent you the login for it, but I can always email it again because I didn't want to put it out publicly. You know, we could just distribute it to the commission members. And our idea was perhaps at the beginning to introduce ourselves. So if anybody wanted to participate, to kind of introduce yourself and why you joined CAC, maybe a piece of art around town that is meaningful to you, and then a photograph of yourself and a piece and the artwork that is meaningful. So we thought that would just be a fun way to reach new audiences and to kind of make some bridges, especially when things are still somewhat virtual, and to connect with younger people in particular and community groups that may not be plugged into city newsletters or the Flame or watching city commission meetings. So I think that's just a way for some fun engagement and celebration of the arts. So we had some fun ideas with that, and I think that would be really positive to move forward on, and something easy and wouldn't take a lot of time, but just, you know, between members who are engaged and participating, I think it could be great. We also thought that if people they did want to be involved, but not, they weren't Instagram savvy, or, you know, they can always email us their information and we can put them too. And then we did write a little bio that came with that, Porter. So I wanted you to proof it before we went public with the Instagram account, just because making sure it's transparent, that it's not a city official account. It's more of an unofficial Culture Chat account.
I am seeing your email for the first time
now. It did get buried in all the other emails, but now thank you for letting me know, and I will look at this and get back to you as quickly as I can.
Awesome. Sweet. So that was a big thing that we talked about. The other thing that we talked about was to embrace some new language inside the cultural plan. So there was some, you know, language needs to be updated every so often, and this thing's been out for 5 years. So there was definitely some language that just felt needed some updating to us. So we made some very specific suggestions about some phrases. We're thinking of maybe taking that cultural plan one section at a time. So we focused primarily in one section and found some phrasings that seemed more inclusive and more modern and embracing what we're trying to achieve with the cultural plan. So I didn't know what the best way to do that. Like, if we have those in that committee report, but is that something we could distribute to the group at large and to get their consensus on it? And it's something that could be changed.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to do it.
To do it as a group effort. I guess the question I would have is, at what point, you know, that was provided by paid consultant. And I don't know, I have to check on, how proprietary that would be considered. So let me do a little digging before you all start investing time in that, just to determine. I think it's a great idea, don't misunderstand me, but it's also, let's make sure we do it right and respectfully in that sense. So let me check in on that.
Definitely, yes.
At the very least, though, it could be the start for recommendations for what to include in a new plan or whatever. Things. If we were to look at the old one, if we were to do a new one and look at the old one as a sort of do a gap analysis or whatever, those items that you guys have identified would certainly be things that we would want to ask for inclusion in the next one. So that's great.
We did talk about too, if there was a way, because that matrix, it has some interesting things in there that we weren't sure that had transpired. And thinking of an example where there was creating like a platform for when there's a beginning of a school year for new professors from Haskell and new professors from KU to have some kind of networking introduction to the community. That was just one example that was listed on that matrix. There were several like that. I'm like, oh, I don't think that exists. So we weren't sure, is there a way to measure like what parts of that plan had been put into place and perhaps what gaps there might be? And is that a place where the LCAC can step in to help motivate some of those ideas come to fruition, or how to move forward with the matrix and identify this box has been checked, this one still needs some love, and how do we evaluate the progress of the plan?
That's great.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know. I know that things have happened somewhat organically in some areas.
But I don't know that anybody, really proactively said, we're going to take this and do it. And I think that's still, forgive me for the overused phrase, low-hanging fruit. That, and I think in that sense, if somebody wants to do that and be proactive in that effort, then tracking their progress is all that really would need to happen.
This is Joshua. I believe in my 25th year serving on the Lawrence Cultural Arts Commission, I resisted as I continued to do this organic coming to be, because strategic plan is really a determinative sort of thing. That here's what we're going to do, here's the outcomes we're going to meet, and here's how we're going to do it. So I'm really interested in what Marlo is talking about with regard to gathering data and information. I think the LCAC is representative of a select group of artists and people involved and passionate about the arts, but it, obviously, as you mentioned, Porter, it doesn't encompass all of those who have not perhaps officially done some things. So I wonder if there's a way to publicly poll or gather input via some social media or other components to see who is doing what, where we don't have maybe the knowledge in the moment, at the moment, of what's been happening. For instance, with faculty from Haskell or KU, I have a pretty good understanding of that area. But there's a lot of arts organizations and programs across the city who we might not hear from unless we say, hey, we ask some very pointed questions, I guess, about, do you know of anything that is participating in this initiative? Something in plain speak, not strategic planning speak, I would argue, but excuse me, but just to gather information and follow up on it as we need to, maybe visiting some of other areas, local meetings and local conversations that they have. I'd certainly volunteer to go visit with anybody. I would certainly volunteer Marlo as well, and Jordan by that measure. But I think just being able to gather.
You don't have to volunteer Marlo. She's in charge. She's nominated for everything.
Oh yeah, sorry. No, I do think that there's just like information that we can gather that does happen, quote unquote, organically, because that's what people want to do and they recognize the value of doing it. And if we can, identify those efforts, appreciate those efforts, honor those efforts, and document them as well, then we can see how in what way our Lawrence cultural art or our cultural plan is coming into fruition, either by some determination or as you say, or organically, and measure those things. I think that's critical, and I think Marlo brings up some great points on that. I'm more, compelled by the information and what we can glean from those that aren't necessarily here in our meetings every month.
Well, I've got something to add to that, if that's all right. I'm wondering, Porter, if there's a way that we could make the different sections of the cultural plan matrix more accessible to the public. I'm thinking maybe infographics or, friendly marketing style updates. Maybe calling, like Joshua said, for community members to contact us and tell us what they're doing regarding specific items on that matrix. And maybe we focus on one section of the matrix in the month of June, and then in July we focus on section B, and we update on all the groups that told us what they were doing for section A in July, kind of stagger it that way. And I'm wondering if we could do something like a bit like a multimedia campaign on social media, and whether or not it'd be appropriate for us to use our newly created Instagram account to kind of give updates on that.
I have a few thoughts, all good ideas. I think one thing, this is Porter O'Neill, I think, as you point out, the matrix has got a lot of parts. And so you can't kind of throw the entire thing out there because that's overwhelming. So I like your thought about, maybe one month is dedicated to figure out how to break it out into pieces that are more palatable. That makes sense. Could be a social media campaign. You guys could do it through Instagram. I'm not sure how that would work, so I just would want to, think that through as to, is that going to get the result that you're looking for? As far as a campaign goes, it depends on how in-depth that gets, just limited staff time on our side. And, again, unfortunately with the funding the way it is, we don't have funds to, this would be something we'd want to probably think about budgeting for in the future potentially. And that gets tricky because the budget cycle is already happening, and we're just thinking of this now. The other thing would be is possibly, and I have to talk this through with my brand manager in my office, Maureen Brady. We do have Lawrence Listens, which is a survey tool, and could potentially be applied in this way if it was, crafted to work that way, if that makes sense. Because this isn't a few questions. This is, I agree, getting data, but to get data, you have to ask the right questions. So those are all possible thoughts. I think maybe, do you all have another meeting scheduled?
Not yet, no.
When you schedule your next meeting, perhaps we could join you and kind of think through some of the mechanical things around this and try to help that way. Does that work? I think that, again, I really think it's all good thinking. I just think, what I'm hearing too is a fairly significant investment in time and energy. And so to make sure that we're heading in the right direction and not jumping into something without thinking it through all the way.
I think that's a great idea. I think we felt sort of compelled to look at this strategic plan as a living document, and then to see like what areas have we accomplished in this 5 years and what still needs to come, and how, as a body, organizational body, how can we help to bring those other things to fruition. And it is an overwhelming task, even to think about plugging in that data and just, should it be a survey? Should it be social media? Should it be a combination of both of those? More like physically going to meetings. I think that's an excellent idea. But yeah, how do we move this forward in a way that's accomplishable within a span of time that can be evaluated?
Yeah, and with that too, I'm also thinking as we're looking at this
Economic Development Strategic Plan and the City Strategic Plan, maybe there's wisdom in digging through those matrices and figuring out which ones seem to apply most relevantly to what's happening now, if that makes sense. Because I know I went through it recently and I was really pleased that a lot of those things are really forward thinking and still very much applicable. So that might be another way, is to go through it and sort of edit it down to what's most relevant at this stage, based on the goals and things that are laid out in the plan. So I can see, there's numerous ways of approaching this, and that'll be part of the challenge is how to make this work. And to Jerry's point, is it time just to say, okay, we need a new cultural plan, or we need to build off of this cultural plan? Those are all good questions.
I have just two quick points. The language for any surveys is not that challenging. Rule number one is not to use the word matrices in the questions. In talking with the Douglas County Food Policy Commission when I served with them, a lot of it was, let me tell you for 5 minutes what a local food system means, and now let me ask you a question after all of that, which there's a much simpler, cleaner way of getting at the answers that could provide some helpful input. And so I'm willing to commit some time and energy around that. And I think there's a lot of strategic initiatives within that plan that can be encompassed by, one larger question, and let people respond as they see fit, as is appropriate. And I think building upon a former strategic plan is perhaps misled if we don't know what that previous strategic plan has produced or can produce, or what has it done well and what hasn't it done well, so that we can build upon it. And in education, we talk about building upon prior learning. And if I don't know what your prior learning has been, then I don't know on what I'm to build. And so I think an evaluation, an assessment of some kind, it's not going to be perfect, of what we have done before, what the previous cultural plan has been, is helpful, is good. And I think the Lawrence Listens is as good an opportunity as any to just get some feedback. And I don't think that feedback is the end all be all. I think it gives us ideas to follow up with, so that we understand more and understand better what people might communicate in the sentence. So I'm committed to it. I'm on board. I don't have time for it, but I'm gonna try. I'll do my best, because I do think it's that important. I really do.
No, I appreciate all of that. This is Porter O'Neill again. And now you're making me think too, as I mentioned last meeting, Britt Crumcano, who is our economic development person here, is working on the economic development strategic plan. And one section of that plan, of course, is arts and culture. And I'm helping her out. And I believe that some folks here are more than willing to help her once she gets these meetings set up. So this may play into that, and might actually dovetail, I could see potentially, where this becomes an effort that's joint between the Cultural Arts Commission and related to the economic strategic plan. So timing is good in that sense, and I'll definitely bring that to the table. I think she just sent me a note about a meeting coming up about this stuff. So this is good.
Yeah, This is Joshua. That's what I was mentioning before about the intertwining of those. And I'm meeting with Britt tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. So if anybody has anything I need to share, particularly regarding
I've got a matrix I'll send you, Joshua.
No, I don't want a matrix. I want a matrices.
Okay.
I need matrices, multiple matrix.
I'm going to send you a 3-dimensional set of matrices.
And make it a hologram.
Well, I mean, as you can see, I am floating above the earth right now. Porter, do I need to ask you about the economic development strategic plan? Is there more to talk about with respect to that?
I think we have covered that.
Excellent. Anything on public art from a public art committee? I know we did a broad thing on committees and we didn't get any takers, but now look what's happened.
I think Jordan is eager to say something.
Jerry?
Oh yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Just before we move on, I had a quick question regarding,
getting local groups involved in the cultural plan matrix. Are we offering any? Is the city offering any incentives to local groups to work towards the matrix, or is that something we can ethically do, or is that information I can find on my own, and if so, where? But like, are we incentivizing involvement in this in any way, or is it just here's what it is, and if your work applies, then please tell us?
That would be the answer. Option B.
Okay.
There's never been any kind of incentive built into this in any way, or budgeted.
Okay.
Other than the goodness of people's hearts towards a better community, that's a good incentive.
Well, I would vouch for this that cultural plan, at least in the sense that it does benefit other organizations to collaborate with one another in the sharing of resources and ultimate goals and outcomes that they do. So it's not necessarily incentivized at the outset to accomplish those goals, I don't think. But I think the idea behind it was that it would incentivize itself in a few ways. So
okay,
my 2 cents.
We can definitely see if it is incentivizing itself after we survey the community and see how everybody's acting. But I just thought if we're having trouble filling that out after we do survey, we might look into non-monetary encouragement that we could for the community, even if it's something as simple as we feature them on the Instagram and say, here's what you're doing. It's cool. We'll celebrate it. Little things like that can go a pretty long way. So I just want to keep that in the back of everyone's brains that sometimes we do need to offer a little bit back to the community as if we want them involved in our projects, right? Okay.
Agree. All right. Well, that brings us to the point in our meeting where we open it up for any miscellaneous or new or anything that might be on somebody's mind.
This is Marlo. I know we talked about the ODSE, but did we talk about community art grants? Are those coming back, or are those in the same situation as the ODSE where we're waiting on the TGT funding?
Yeah, that's what both of those are on the agenda. Different programs with same situation, and so not rushing to that. But a lot, the other thing I'm aware of is how much time would we need? So if we suddenly know, okay, $25,000 for arts grants is available through the transient guest tax grant program, it needs time for people to respond, and then it needs time for the Arts Commission to review and award those things. So about a 2-month turnaround process approximately. So worst case scenario is we can't do it, but second worst case scenario is we just do it later in the year. And as long as we can get those things, funded, I don't think it's, I have to look at it. I'm not sure it has to happen in the calendar year necessarily. We can probably construct a calendar that would allow people to receive their grant in this calendar year, but then do their projects later. So I have to look at that.
Yeah. And just before we, just to circle back on what we've covered with respect to that in the past, my recollection is that we thought that we would allow people to submissions from last year to stand, ones that that we weren't able to fund or whatever, but then not to just limit it to that, but to go ahead and let other ones come in, knowing that there's going to be a risk that we'll get requests way above our quote unquote budgeted amount, and also knowing that we may not actually get that much funding. But just as a altered methodology because of because of last year, that we would do that.
That's how I remembered it as well. And I just feel like, just for transparency, that I know some organizations depend on that in their calendar cycle. So if we are delaying, or if we are doing something different this year, could we put it on our website or do a news release? Because, just working at the Art Center, that's something where we apply annually, and it's kind of part of our expected budget. So, I know everyone's always asking me, one of the community grants coming up again. And I know other organizations are in that same position. So if we could be transparent about it and just say, we're looking at fall, or we're looking at this timeline, and here's the situation, I think that might do some good.
Yeah, agreed. And
as you understand, I've just been really careful not to promise things I can't deliver. So, but your point is well taken. And what I'm thinking is going to happen is, after last night's report to the City Commission, the Finance Office is going to work to reevaluate the budget and determine what can be funded through all these funds, not just TGT. So I also am waiting for that information too, to get a sense of where does the city stand, and ultimately what does the City Commission want to do.
This is Dina Amont. I would agree that we don't want to overpromise something or give the impression that something is coming that might not be. But I do agree some level of transparency is important. Maybe just wording it in terms of, this is pending. We're doing our, I don't know how to do the wordsmithing of this, but just to say that it's pending. Because I do know that people are looking for some information, and the information, I think, needs to be a little bit updated, and at least to just say it's pending, budget approvals or something along those lines.
good advice. Yeah, let me look at that and at the very least get something on the website.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I mean, we do that, with in my work situation, we post things on the beta.sam, the government site that says, hey, look for this. And here's what's going on with that, because otherwise, folks wonder and they feel like they're not getting information or whatever. So I think that's a good suggestion. I mean, people will certainly understand the story, right? I mean, it's the reality that we're in. So, but we should tell the story. All right. Anything else? All right. Well, as usual, I appreciate you all's volunteering and your time and participation and passion for arts and culture in the city. I would entertain a motion for us to adjourn for the evening.
Nobody wants to adjourn.
Motion.
All right. We'll stay. We'll stay.
I'll motion to adjourn.
Christina.
I'll second.
Jordan seconds. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Everybody agrees to adjourn?
Everyone agrees.
All right. Thanks, everybody. See y'all later.